All right. Well, with that said, we have pretty quickly landed ourselves in Module 4, which is the last module before we go into our lessons learned. Once again, I'll take the first couple of minutes to set the context, to thank our sponsors, do a brief rundown of where we're at before we dive deeper into this. I do want to add an important caveat, and that is, obviously, in such an attack, there are many moving parts. And as I've been saying online, and I'll repeat over here, we can't touch each and every one of them. But the chaos that is ensued, the challenges that come up, the questions that come up, this is not something that you cannot run detection analysis within 75 minutes, but we hope that those questions, those gaps, those additional perspectives that you had, you begin to realize how that plays out in real time. And with that, I'll jump into this module, but we'll take the first couple of minutes to set the context. To the folks online, keep the conversations coming. I am monitoring as best as I can. To the folks in person, I'm doing my best to see your hands up. And if I don't see your hands up, just shout it out, and I will make sure that your questions get fed in. Firstly, I want to thank the team from Immersive. You've been a supporter of all of the sessions, if I'm not mistaken, across our tour. So I want to thank you, Daniel. I know that besides cyber, we have a common interest in cricket. So you and I can definitely become the best of friends. Looking forward to getting Immersive's perspective as we move ahead. To the folks watching online, it'll be shared again with you shortly. There is a code to an environment where you can practice similar scenarios to this. I highly recommend you try and avail of that. To those who are here in person, if you even email assistant@siberX.org or reach out to the live chat, someone will provide you with those links so you can practice within those labs. Thank you, Immersive, for your support. Firstly, I want to go through who's at the desk right now so that you have a sense of how are we going to be tackling this particular scenario. Of course, Daniel plays the role of an industry expert, and from a recovery standpoint, he'll really be talking about what kind of recovery exercises you need to be considering in light of the scenario that you've encountered. To my far right, we have Shrey and Alex, who will continue their role within the SOC and the NOC and the chaos engineering. And a little bit late, but she's here now, and I'm sure she's come with a barrage of questions. Octavia Havel, the CIO, who has a lot to ask. And Shrey and Alex, I'd be very careful sitting too close to her, but good luck to you. We have Jason, who has joined us as well. Jason will take on the role of the third-party risk manager. And really, this is going to be focusing on, well, our risks, but also in terms of all of the other services that we utilize. Where do we stand right now from a risk perspective will be your focus. Of course, we have Daniel from Immersive. To my left, we have Tahir Afridi, who will be playing the role of a liaison officer. Tahir really is the person that is communicating with the public as well, reaching out, ensuring that our coordinations are happening, the systems that need to be running, who needs to be engaged, yada, yada, yada. Tahir finds himself in there, and there's a couple of scenarios that begin to evolve that Tahir will have to pay attention to. Emerson taking over from the chief operating officer, who had to head off to another emergency discussion. Emerson being our operations lead. Hopefully Yusuf has briefed you. If he hasn't, that was by design. But if he has, you're very lucky, and hopefully you can take on from there. And then there's John, the financial systems recovery lead. John, good luck. The economic impact does not look very pretty at this point. And your positioning in this scenario is going to be very important, especially in terms of recovery, in terms of budget for future implementations. And then lastly, we have Shruti, who is taking over from Kim as our strategic communications lead. Shruti, you've done this role before, but STS is in a deep crisis right now. Multiple angles to be looked at, so I wish you all the very best. And it's come to my attention that the incident commander, who was called upon twice in the other modules, has now returned to the stage to command us through the scenario that we are going through. So thank you all for taking the time. With that said, Alex, a brief summary of where are we at right now. Shrey, something from you as well before we go into the depths of the module. Alex, we'll start off with you.
All right, we are starting in the recovery phase. Now, a lot of y'all think that's just turning the backups back on and restoring data, but it is so much more than that. If you recall, in the eradication phase, we had contained the suspected impacted containers or microservices, but then realized that they were being controlled by an API key that was illicitly under the control of an attacker, and arguably not even really supposed to be in the production environment. And that is a common problem that keys get left around, whether it's in code, which is a common one, or left on somebody's desktop. And typically these keys can be overprivileged and used for not good. So we looked at containing that and eradicating that part of the threat. And what does that mean? Well, that likely means revoking those keys, but that now means that there's a bunch of stuff that breaks. So now we need to provision new keys and make sure those systems come back online. And here we are in recovery. The recovery phase, from a technical perspective, is making sure those systems are working as expected before turning them back on to the public and to users. So there's going to be some user acceptance testing, regression testing, integration testing, things like that. But I would argue that this phase is so much more than a technology story. And that's, I think, what we're going to be discussing in this module.
Shrey, Alex seems a lot more composed. You have definitely given me the vibes of you're in a bit of a panic state yet. Part of it, Octavia's at the table. Part of it, the reality of the scenario that you're in. Shrey?
Well, Alex has his coffee, mine is still remaining. But coming back, he rightly mentioned when he said recovery is not a one-step process. There's a lot of things to take care of, a lot of things from a technical perspective. I'm a technical guy, I'm just going to talk about it and I'm going to stay with it. With terms of recovery, I'm not extremely confident, I can say. In fact, I've done a lot. My team is worried as well, and they have covered a lot of bases, a lot of lengths over here to get at this particular point. We have done lots and lots of analysis, but still there is going to be a fear of what did we leave. So at the moment, considering the architecture that you showed, all of you guys saw earlier, we're going to be seeing a lot many things that can potentially happen. And my team, regardless of, scarcely resourced, but it is what it is at the end. We are still trying our best to make sure that there is nothing persistent staying in any particular layer.
Sure, recovery requires patience, not pride, and speed is the enemy of stability. I'm going to ask, I understand that push to get things done quickly and fast, but I commend the fact that you are suggesting to us that this is going to take much longer than what we are projecting. So I appreciate that. I also noticed that with the CEO's message going out there, which was not expected, Shruti, you should be aware of this, that the CEO put out a message saying, everything's stable, we're all good. That was not coordinated. We have a mayor that is pressurizing us quite a bit. We have counselors calling in. So it's not the most ideal state, and I think you're warranted to feel that you need a little bit of more time. Well, speaking of time, ODTN News never loses on time to keep the public informed. They have some more information which I'd like to get our attention to. So let's tune into the news for now.
Good evening, Toronto. I'm Roshan Khan with ODTN News. After a full day of turmoil, the city is finally seeing its first real signs of recovery, but the calm may be short-lived. For the first time today, controlled train movement has resumed on select lines. Platforms that were frozen in fear and frustration this morning are showing cautious relief as the first trains slowly return. STS says they now have the situation under control, with crews working around the clock to restore service. Manual resets, on-site inspections, and phased restarts continue across the network. Officials insist that safety, not speed, is dictating this recovery. But while STS expresses confidence, Queen's Park is not fully convinced. Provincial leaders spent the afternoon debating whether this incident meets the threshold of a national emergency and whether broader shutdowns or federal coordination may be required. Meanwhile, videos are circulating online showing the same takeover loading message appearing at airports, ferry terminals in Vancouver, and other transportation hubs. At this hour, it's unclear which clips are real and which may be misinformation. But the spread is fueling concerns that today's breakdown could be a part of a larger, still unfolding problem. And despite progress on the tracks, the ripple effects continue. Rideshare prices remain inflated. Key workplaces are dealing with missed shifts, and critical year-end operations are falling behind as people struggle to get where they need to be. Tonight, the wheels are turning again, but Toronto is far from steady. What began as a transit shutdown may be evolving into something much bigger. I'm Roshan Khan with ODTN News. Thank you for following along.
Octavia, you've had a lot of questions come up, and we're hearing that some systems have come back up. We're hearing that certain lines, select lines, but I don't think you have the clarity that you've asked for as a CIO. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Ali. No, I don't actually have the clarity. And I think a lot of it actually is coming because we haven't really been kind of functioning in the roles, right? Security team and the technology team has been asked to do things that operations should be working on. Communications have been asking for answers. We're trying to actually focus over here. And so I think one of the things that the reason I came when I came, I typically try to let my team handle it, but it seems like things are kind of chaotic, and therefore I felt like I had to come in. One, my team needs to be able to actually function and work in the way that they need to work. And so I need to make sure that they have all of the systems and all of the support that they need. I'm really glad that Emerson is here. So that we can actually get to operations and actually focus on that human side and the public safety side. One of the things that I actually question is, I heard earlier someone was saying something about they wanted to revoke the certificates. I'm really glad that we have Alex here, who was very adamant that that is not the right answer. And so really what I want to actually kind of focus on is we're going to actually continue to do these rotations and kind of look at, bringing up the certificates and rotating the credentials, but also we're actually going to also start looking at the entitlements on each of those credentials in our service accounts as well, just to make sure that the access is proper. So I'm actually here to kind of protect my team a little bit so that they can actually get their work done, but also work with my partners to make sure that we are actually functioning properly.
Fair enough. I'll take that. Emerson, since Octavia mentioned you and a great deal of trust in your leadership with Yusuf not here, there have been a couple of questions I see from folks like Yassine who mentioned fantastic questions online. We'll go into the technical realities of where we're at right now, but there's a couple of questions that have come in online, which I want to bring to you, and maybe you have additional questions on this to push towards Alex and Shrey. I'll bring out two of them, rather all three. Have all stations confirmed that the PA systems work correctly in the manual mode? Are the screens displaying validated data? Can automated schedule be re-enabled safely without risking false inputs? From an operations perspective, do you have the confidence that you have the answers to these questions right now, or are these valid questions that you want to spring towards the SOC team and the operations team as well?
Yeah, I mean, I could defer, but I think with the scaled, phased restorative procedures that's being conducted right now, we're slowly gaining confidence. However, given the root cause or causes and or vulnerabilities, we have to be cautious about the restoration because of the validity of the backups, the sanity checks, etc. Restoring from backups still has those findings about API keys, etc. But what else is lurking in the dark that we don't know about? So we're cautiously optimistic. So that's why we're using a phased approach. But I'm going to defer it to Alex and Shrey to perhaps shed some light on any further findings that they may have found during the restoration process and or remediation.
Shrey, I think you wanted to chime in. Do you want to share what you're seeing as well at this point?
I was just gonna say let's do that because that will bring a lots of light to this discussion and at least steer it in a way so that the folks over here gets to see what the SOC is doing at the same time.
Go ahead. We'll have your screen pop up.
Perfect. What you'll be looking at on the screen is going to be the quick breakdown of scheduled jobs dashboard. One of the previous notes I made about the persistent issues on any system is
Shrey, just bear with me for a moment. Your screen is not yet propping up. If you could just reconnect your HDMI, that would be great.
Okay.
If you could just take a minute to do that, my friend, that would help, and then we'll get your screen up. But Alex, if you want to chime in.
This is the reboot strategy that we're initiating right now. Layer 1 issue. Let's see if it comes up.
Yeah, we'll give it a few seconds. But while that is happening, John, from a financial standpoint, I'm sure you have a lot of questions that are triggering right now, and we have our incident commander here as well. What's top of mind for you right now, this late in the game?
Oh, there's a lot of things that are of concern. One is that the last I saw that the national impact was $83 million. What is the overall impact going to be on STS? What's it going to cost us to actually do the initial recovery? And how are we going to go about, we're going to lose ridership as a result of this. So how are we going to go about recovering that to bring back our financials to where they were before this started?
Fair enough. And the budgetary asks that will be coming also from an IT and security perspective should be top of your mind at this point. But we'll get to that very shortly, as I'm just trying to configure. Shrey, I'll get you up and running very, very shortly. I'll just take in a few more questions that have come in online, and then we'll come back to you, Shrey. Ali, this one was for you directly. Is that we've got to the recovery phase at this point, but as the incident commander, have you noticed a bunch of gaps in the process thus far? What have you learned so far that up until this stage?
Well, as you said, this was my second day at the job, and this morning I just realized what a mess I signed up for. So I sent my resignation, but then I was asked that stay and all of that by the promise that they are going to basically fire some of the C-levels that they let it go that way. I think Yusuf was the first one. So the challenge we have is that lack of all of the needed information about this incident. And the reality is that still we are in phase that our investigation is not complete, and we don't know what we are really dealing with. We are talking about different type of attack vectors that might be, still we don't have the confirmation about them. So this is the biggest gap. And from the recovery perspective, the question I have from the IT side is that, are we going to recover on the same environment, or we have a DR side that you are going to recover on that environment? Because if you are planning to rebuild the whole systems again within the same environment that has been compromised, we are going to lose all of the evidence. And that was one of my questions also. By shutting down, actually, how are we going to retain the evidence that we needed for our investigation? So those are the challenges that we realize that we don't have. And that's a question I have from the IT right now, that, okay, if we are going to rebuild, where are we going to rebuild it? On the same site or recovery site?
Alex?
And that's a great question. So because we are following modern practices of software development and using cloud infrastructure, we actually can do both. And this is actually sort of a great thing, because our previous system would not be able to have that ability to spin something up in parallel without paying exactly double the cost. So what we're going to do is we are going to freeze the current infrastructure that's hosted in the cloud, and then spin up a parallel infrastructure. Luckily, the development team is a big fan of infrastructure as code, which means that they are able to spin this up relatively quickly. Where there'll be some challenges is where, that hybrid bridge between our traditional IT environment and the cloud environment. particularly identity management. So that's where our API keys would be created, and we do need to figure those little connections out. But the most impacted environment, the microservices, the message bus, the databases, we can move most of that over and start bringing up those systems and start doing the testing to validate the stability of it before we start releasing it back to our employees and our ridership as well as our partners. We should probably consider communicating to those different stakeholders and timelines of when they can expect to receive or at least trust the data streams that we're providing for them.
Jason,
My
go ahead.
apologies, Ali. May I just...
Of course.
On that, Alex, can you please confirm that the backups that you're talking about, they have been basically tested and in the past, and they are immutable, and the integrity of the backups, have we done anything about that?
Well, actually, what I did say was that recovery phase is usually people thinking that they're restoring backups and that's it, job done. In this environment, well, we didn't have backups because we used the cloud. We didn't need backups. But that said, the majority of that data is sitting in databases and storage in the current cloud environment. The vast majority of that infrastructure is actually spun up brand new and fresh very quickly. We will either need to bring that data from the compromised environment into the green environment, or potentially consider that some of the services we may not bring on right away. So a good example of that would be transit passes. There's balances that are tracked in that database. That might be a little bit of a challenge for us to bring over without spending the time to validate that data is valid. And doesn't have any other potential risks of bringing it into a green environment. So it is something the business will need to consider of what services we can not turn on right away versus ones that we can turn on, and then work with our stakeholders to let them know those timelines.
Shrey, I've got you back up. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Did the golden thing of restarting, and we get back online. Okay, so talking about the scheduled jobs, to maintain such a huge infrastructure, we always keep jobs which run at a certain time on a periodic basis. Frequently, once a day, once a month, once an hour, depends on the type of job and the nature of it. Here's a quick breakdown of the scheduled jobs dashboard. While going through the containment, recovery, and the eradication phases, one of the important elements is looking at these jobs as well. Persistence generally is not always within the files. Persistence is always something which keeps on coming back again and again, over and over. This is one of those signs. What we did was we initiated a task scheduler integrity check, and turns out the results were not something to our liking. Initially, on the left side, you see this is the before portion, which should be the baseline, which should be how it should look like. 3 normal tasks, system tasks, cleanup, DB backup, log rotations, you are done. Predictable, owned by correct system accounts itself, right here. However, after 10 EST, we saw that those jobs did take place. However, there were other ones which were not supposed to be there, which also took place. Using service accounts, using service APIs, and all of those things at the end, these new tasks explain why false alerts keep coming back, why persistence should be a bigger problem than it appears to be, and actually why Alex also mentioned that recovery is a staged approach. This is one of those stages we are in right now. That's the current point which SOC is at. Again, we are looking for guidance, we are looking for better decision making over here, and as much information as we can receive, we would appreciate that.
Fair enough. There's a lot to digest over here, and a few things are percolating as we go along. Daniel, from your perspective, obviously, you're here to sort of give us some opinion on how we could train better for these scenarios. But based on what you've heard so far, any opening thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo all the points that I think we're entering the more dangerous phase. What do I mean by that? Because we have to understand the sequence of recovery. I have to, as a business, have confidence in your technical capability, but also that we've exercised and understand the right from the business perspective, what needs to be brought up and why and when. in terms of what's going to create the most disruption to the public, to our employees, to our wider stakeholders. And I'm not sure I have that confidence from you at this point, but I'm empowering you and I trust you. But this is why we need to do that exercising. I think as well, fatigue is a problem. So these guys have been flat out throughout the day. The whole organization is exhausted. Our frontline staff in the stations are shattered. There is a risk that we make mistakes in the recovery process. So have we got it really down? Do we really understand? Have we got other people we can pull in to supplement this team to make sure you don't accidentally make a mistake? Other concerns I would have, what about the wider ecosystem? If we want to reconnect, who do we need to reconnect with? What assurance do they need? Because we're not in a good place right now. We don't have a good reputation. So we need to think about all of these as we go through. How have we making sure that we are ready? We understand what the business priorities are. And I think my final thing, just why we need to practice this and make sure that we have this confidence as a team as to what the priorities are at this critical juncture, is if you think of any incident, the public have like some level of goodwill to an organization, like a currency of goodwill. It is tiny though for an organization like a transit system, and we've burnt through all of that goodwill this morning. And so any further misstep in our recovery process is going to just keep amplifying the challenges that we need to address and burn through that confidence. So got to really focus now. And then final thing, how do we rebuild that trust as quickly as possible, and we documenting the decisions we've made. So we're going to have to justify all the decisions that we've taken today and you are now about to take in the recovery phase, because there's going to be a world of pain for the next 6-7 months around who made what decision, when, why, on what data points. So we need to make sure we're capturing that, because today is a bad day, tomorrow is going to be very bad, but 6 months from now, we're going to be in a painful place if we can't justify the decisions we're about to make.
Sorry, Ali, I'm trying to jump in a little bit here. As a communication strategy lead, I'm hearing a lot of talks about what's happening inside, outside, and a lot of recovery talk, but I think communications have been severely neglected so far. We have been going through 5 phases almost to the last recovery, and we haven't made any public declaration of what is going on so far. So I'm trying to pull in a little bit of my inner George here and really start to scream about what is going on and what are we putting out there is communication. I have severely scared public. I have tired union people who are literally just tired and do not have any answer. I have internal people who are confused. They don't know what's happening here, and they need some answer. So we really have to have, and then, okay, I forgot one top and most important thing. We have our CEO going rogue and communicating misinformation. So at this stage, we really need to have some solid communication as a source of truth coming out from our behalf so we can set the narrative, and then we absolutely need periodic communications going in and out after that. People are scared, people are worried, people do not know who to trust and what to trust, so this is extremely important at this time. We can continue to do what we are doing inside, but some sort of communication needs to go out there ASAP.
Listen, I agree. Let's not make this incident the last stop for our reputation. I agree not to sort of rub this in even more, but there's a lot of more information that's starting to come in, and I echo that. So, Liaison Officer Tahir, I see you wanted to chime in. Please do.
No, absolutely. So I actually fully agree. I'm a little bit disappointed, and we're into the 7th hour now, and we haven't really communicated anything. We have, of course, realized that we have a broken communication system externally, and there's a lot of chaos happening. The whole city is on a standstill. But I think we fail to also realize that our internal communications are broken and they're very fragmented. So I think the first step here is to actually create communication discipline. This is non-negotiable. So we have a communication command that will have representatives from the union. It will have government representatives as well, leadership from STS, our incident commander as well. And no communications are allowed to go out unless they're 100% verified by everyone in this command center. We have to show the public, and this is a word that I kept probably hearing on repeat from session 1, trust and transparency. So I don't think our competitive advantage now is technical at this point. It's definitely being transparent. and how do we go from crisis to transparent recovery to resilience leadership, right? So we have to kind of craft that messaging around transparency to show the public that we've made a mistake, this is what we did, this is how we fixed it, and this is how we stop it from happening again.
Yeah, well, what I can tell you is that now, thank you, Tahir, we're getting more information that's coming our way, and it appears that now across multiple stops rather, we're seeing even something like this come up, which you can see on your screen right now. Scan for real-time train routing, fake QR codes targeting GTA transit riders. So I'm really, really at a loss here, because at one end, Shrey and Alex, you've sort of given us what you've tried to do to eradicate this attack, to eradicate the footprints of this insider or whoever it is that's within our systems. But yet we're seeing other things that are percolating, such as this. So anything you want to share over here, Shrey? Because, from my perspective, eradication, we're done. And now we're just recovering our systems. We should not be seeing more of things like this happening. So any perspective you want to share?
Look, I sincerely understand what you're saying, the concern that the board is rising as well. I'll bring the PA systems up. I'll validate them. I'll validate the communication systems which you have. But at the end of the day, if something happens once again, you will lose more trust in the public. There will be bigger chaos at the moment. What else we should be doing? I'm literally at a point where I want to ask, Ali, incident man, please answer. Emerson, guide me. What should I do right now at this particular point?
If HR is in the room, are they here? I don't know. No.
Well, actually, we already discussed that we were just going to create a greenfield environment and cut over. So has that not been done?
No.
So can I jump in, right? Because we keep asking Alex and Shrey questions. First of all, if the CEO is out here doing rogue communication, Shruti, I expect you and your team to actually get in front of him and actually have a conversation, right? And so can you please go and actually ring him in and just give him something to communicate? And then also these codes, right? So from a operations perspective, I really would I don't know if it's operations, I don't know if it's your field agents, if we can get some security or something, go and take these codes down or put a sign up somewhere that actually blocks this. This is not a technology problem, and my team needs to focus on our actual systems and not this extra stuff. So could you please, Shruti, let us know once you've had that conversation with the CEO so we can kind of focus here. And then Emerson, please, get your people, man. Just try to see if they can actually go and do something in the field.
Will do.
Appreciate it.
Ali, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I think tied in with kind of what Octavia's just said and what Shruti was talking about before from a communication standpoint, Alex talked about creating a greenfield environment. And I think as soon as that information gets out to the public, one of the things that was communicated earlier was about the issues with people's balances on their cards. And if we go to a greenfield, people are going to go, well, what's going to happen to all of my balances? I think we absolutely need to communicate out to the public what has happened, what we're doing about it, how we're going to protect not only STS's finances, but also our ridership's finances, to make sure that they don't lose anything, so that we don't in turn lose their commitment to ridership and end up ultimately costing the company dramatic amounts of money in that ridership.
Okay, I need to understand something here. And sure, Octavia, I may not, I'm not doing this intentionally, but correct me if I'm wrong, Shrey or Alex, didn't we already agree we are going to go to a greenfield environment and, we'll keep manual operations running? So again, has this not been communicated? So what do staff think they're doing at this point?
Well, I was instructed to make sure that we had a forensically sound red environment and spin up the green field. So if we're seeing further compromises, we have to look at, did we actually successfully cut over, and that would be a network ops problem. Or is our greenfield environment compromised? And I hope not, because I do want to enjoy the weekend.
And I would just say one thing, like we can communicate, but we're not communicating that we're going to greenfield to the public, right? And so that is an internal conversation that we need to actually know what we're doing. And so I think we have done that. These additional compromises are not actual compromises. These are scams. So let's separate the difference and let's actually kind of focus on what we need to do.
All right, Shruti?
Yep. So me and my team had a conversation with the CEO, and we kind of shut him down. We would, as a central unit, would manage the communication. We're keeping him side at this point, and I genuinely hope he's not going to go rogue again and try to communicate something on his own, because that's definitely creating more panic, and the reputational damage is severe. And at this point, I think Shrey was bringing this up. I think it's more about, of course, there could be more information coming to light, but at this point, my team's main motive is to put something out there. Put something financial related, put something what exactly is going on, and kind of make the public calm and stable, and slowly, and I see this, say this with determination, because it's going to take a lot of time to bring that trust back, but we will continue through this process slowly to bring that trust back. There has been severe reputational damage, and Ali, I don't know if we will be able to recover that in a short term, because how long it took for us to put something out there, and of course the CEO's motive, but me and my team are working to reestablish that as we speak.
Yeah, I'm getting, there's a lot coming in, people mocking us online as well. Somebody just wrote, the transit system runs on tracks. Their incident response plan clearly runs on bad coffee and bad vigilance. So there's a lot. I can see where you're coming from. There's some more stuff that's coming into us online. I will talk about that, but I think, Daniel, you wanted to chime in. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question to comms. Given there's reports of disruption elsewhere to other infrastructure providers that could be linked or not, are there any plans to coordinate with other departments, other agencies for a joint communication to reassure the public?
Absolutely. We are in communication with other departments. They're monitoring, and depending on how, if there is actually impact showing up on their end, we would be open to jointly communicating with them.
Tahir?
So I think at this stage it's important for us to really establish the right connections. We have to have leadership come in and representations from unions as well, so where we can work together. A lot of the operators, their reluctance isn't obstruction, it's really rational risk assessment. The frontline workers and operators, their safety doesn't depend on promises. It depends on verifiable information. So it is very important that we're able to have a mechanism or a platform where we're able to take input from the SOC leads and from IT and from ops to make sure that everything is working 100%. So we can relay the right information to the reps from unions, reps from governments, where we can work together.
Ali, may I also ask a question?
Yeah, and I also want to add, thank you. Ali, it's perfect that you're chiming in. Again, Yasin online is saying, can someone please confirm, are we actually building this whole system from scratch? Ali, Incident Commander, maybe you have some answers. Go ahead.
Well, I don't. The CIO's team, they should have answer. But the question I have is related also to the communication, because we are at the recovery phase, and at this stage we need to have some sort of, or pass this, the message clearly, what is our confidence in our recovery timelines, and when we are going to be able to have the systems back up and running, basically free of any type of compromise. Do we have those type of information that we can add to the communications that are needed to go out?
I think I'd have to refer to legal on that, because we're working with a breach coach, and we're getting advised that not to give that specific information on because of the uncertainty. So right now the answer is to be decided.
Jason, can I bring you into this very quickly as our third-party risk manager? Yep, you're good to go. A few questions starting to come in. We have multiple other vendors, we have multiple other partners that we can potentially route services through, that we can partner with, etc. But the confidence, especially given that we're a public entity, the councillors are giving us pressure, the mayor's office is giving us a lot of pressure. There's no trust even in our partner systems right now. How are you reading into this at this moment?
Yeah, those are all good points. There's a lot of challenges and a little bit of chaos going on here. So right now, we should be ensuring that, I know we're talking about a lot of internal systems and looking at addressing the issues internally, but I haven't heard anybody mention anything about running any scans or assessments to determine whether we have any gaps or issues that exist in those spaces. So highly recommend doing that. We should be pulling in our third parties, which we would do from an internal perspective for our different systems and applications to ensure that they can attest to anything that they can provide in terms of any issues that might exist within their various services or solutions that they're subscribing to. I'd like to pull out a little bit further too from an external perspective. A lot of this all started out earlier with our PA systems and our station screen platforms, our other infrastructure. There's a lot of issues out there too, so we need to be bringing our third parties to the table so that we can help get some information from them in terms of what issues might exist within their products that we should be able to look for and determine whether there was any gaps or openings that someone might have got into to basically start this whole issue, which is what kicked us off earlier this morning. So we need to start bringing some of that information in from our third parties to ensure that they're at the table, but also that they're also on the hook for ensuring that we can bring our solutions back up securely and that we can bring trust back to the public when we go to bring those communications back to the public.
Okay, Shruti, I know that you had some compliance questions as well. Look, I'm being very, very clear. There's a lot of chaos in this. Usually we can, at least to some degree, understand what systems are up, there's communications breakdowns, there's pressures from the union, and then there's messages like this that are coming out there. So I'm only going to assume that this might be someone that's a transit operator coming to the union. So today in Toronto, we had an active terrorism threat. Look, we used that term in our war room. We have not put out any messaging out there. How this term has now gone into circulation, I will not understand. And our union was forced to work through it, okay? What is the point of a union when it comes to things like this? We are run by the big guys who call the big shots while we almost lose our lives, making me believe something has happened and beyond what we know. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. They're lucky we made it home safe, because I can tell you otherwise there would be wives and husbands raising hell. Look, I'm just saying this to everyone from STS's perspective. There is chaos everywhere right now. I need to get some clarity, which I'm still not getting, but I will come to that very shortly. Shruti, compliance-wise, you had some questions.
Yep.
Go ahead, because clearly communications isn't functioning here. Maybe there'll be a role open in compliance for you. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So I have looked into, we have been sharing the compromised information. That includes financial, that includes employee information, that includes our other customer information. So what comes to mind as my team is drafting communication, as well as trying to reach out to different bodies to keep them up to date on what's happening, is what are we looking at in the compromised information? Are we 100% certain that there has been PII compromised, personal information, including our employees, or any customers have been compromised, as well as PCI compromise? I have heard rumors that PCI compliance has been violated. So Alex, Shrey, team, can I get some confirmation on what's the status on this?
Yeah, sure. We did start realizing while we were doing eradication that and investigating that compromised key, what else it had touched. We did notice it did have access to some other data stores, and what logs we were able to correlate did see a few different things. And I did make some recommendations earlier on forking and running some processes in parallel. So there was likely a PII breach. So that's going to be both a technical process of trying to determine scope of that. So again, we go back to the beginning, at least for that level, but also initiating the privacy breach protocols. That would be in our playbook. And that's likely going to be notifying at least the privacy commissioner fairly shortly, and then likely dealing with the blowback. Likely hiring a PR firm, to be honest, because that one's going to be spicy. We also noticed that there were some configurations that were downloaded from our VPN. So again, the security team is now looking to understand what was in those configs. Were they old and deprecated, didn't matter, or does somebody know how our VPN is configured? And then lastly, there was a bunch of SSL TLS keys that were pulled. So that means that we have now an octopus of problems on our hands that we're dealing with in parallel to the main primary breach that was against our digital platform that really affected the ridership and our employees.
Clearly, you've planned no unscheduled stops on our journey to absolute destruction. Thank you, Alex, for sharing all of this information. Look, I'm getting a message from one of our counselors who are also tuning in. So let me be clear on this. We have trains, buses, some LRTs operating with limited capacity, but with some manual feeds, and we've gone into this environment where we are directly informing over radio, telling buses where they need to be, etc. We are potentially trying to communicate through a website that we have with the updated schedules, etc. But there are compliance issues. There is more revelations in terms of what this attacker has done in our environment, and we're still keeping systems running. Emerson, a very straightforward question here. Shouldn't we just be shutting everything down?
Well, we're in crisis communication mode. I think, for 1.2 plus million people to shut transit system down for foreseeably a long time, or some days, hours, what have you. I think it's the wrong approach. What I would advise is, can we reach out to other municipalities for transit system or buses for, they may have access, so that they could help supplement our system, because there could be a system that was not impacted, so we can utilize their system innately to create new schedules for us or help us out. So we could piggyback off probably, Ottawa Transit, what have you, Mississauga Transit, to see if we can utilize their systems to help us out. So that's like that's a one idea for restoration, but I wouldn't attempt to shut things down, especially if we're using a manual approach, because we would have analyzed that risk and we accepted that risk. The risk is low since it's manual.
Ali, may I just, based on what you said, Emerson, aren't we opening the side door to their environments if we are in the state that we are at the compromise still and we haven't recovered and we haven't eradicated?
It depends. It depends on what services we are leaning on our neighbors for. Is it ticketing? Is it scheduling? Is it the mobile app? Can we work with? I mean, I would imagine we are working with our vendors. We didn't build these applications in-house, so most of them are software as a service, etc. But ideally, you look at the other transit systems, most likely they are using similar, perhaps similar applications, but I think it's worth it to have these conversations now as a backup plan for us to move forward.
Yeah, if I can also, I actually like that idea because it also gives us an opportunity to decouple our system. So clearly, we were working with a strapped budget. We really did not have all of the funding that we needed. So we actually created this flat network where we didn't actually have proper segregation. And so what we probably can do, and we probably can actually just look at the system, try to figure out what we can decouple. As we actually recover, we need to actually have a plan going forward that we can actually, look in how do we segregate our PII data? How do we segregate and put our PCI data in a separate environment? Things of that nature. If we kind of segment that, some of those systems off, we can actually work on a longer term strategy. If I get the budget approved by my colleague John, that we need to actually get the system back to a place where we can actually restore public trust.
And I'll say this, John, in dollars, not rupees. So please, your thoughts?
From a financial, or from a finance department standpoint, if there's money required, we're more than happy to help. But we need to have some kind of an idea as to what that's going to be. In the short term, it's understandable that, it's open up the checkbook, but we can't do that long term. We have to be able to come up with a solution or a game plan on how we're going to proceed. Otherwise, we'll run out of money and we won't have the money to bring things back up.
Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, so could perhaps make a suggestion with it's approaching the end of the day. Our citizens have had a very disrupted day. They're going to start planning for tomorrow. They need to know whether they're going to work from home, how they're going to get their kids to school. When do we draw a line and say technical recovery can only get us so far because we need to get out and communicate to the public and say we cannot run any service, or we can run a partial service, and what time this evening do we need to make that call and then communicate? Because I think that's an obligation. We need to be honest to the citizens, but we need to make that decision now, because maybe other municipalities can give us buses and extra services, but is that realistic, and will that be in place tomorrow morning?
And I will say this, that our public safety officer, who's in the crowd now, also wearing a Hawaiian t-shirt, perhaps indicating that he has resigned or retired, suggested that do we have mutual aid agreements in place with other municipalities, to which one person responded, yeah, the unions would love that. I really don't know what else to tell you. Emerson, where do you draw the line on this? When do we put out an announcement? I mean, things are running to some degree, but look, I don't need to tell you, there's zero confidence.
In chatting with our PR firm, CIO, CEO, I believe it's a right decision to inform the public of what has happened strategically and what are our next steps to somewhat bring about some form of transit to the residents through partnerships, through our own infrastructure and or equipment. So I think that would be my call, to strategically inform the public and what routes are going to be running, what is not, and also, with us holding it, closely to our hearts that we need to do it safely as well. So public safety is number one here, human safety. So I'll leave it with that.
If I may, I just want to point out one thing. At this point, because it has already, we have already suffered tremendous reputational damage, whatever we put out there has to be down to the T. So we need absolute certainty. Tomorrow, people would be able to get to work, or they need to prepare their kids and drop them to work, and what exactly is happening. So we absolutely need guarantee of some sort how much we can support tomorrow, because otherwise we are looking at mass panic again and again until we do that. So communication needs exact answers, and we would appreciate if we can get something out there ASAP.
I'd just like to also mention, we're a transit system. I think at this point, the situation has been elevated to the city level. So we're going to depend on the city of ABC to help us manage the situation further. And back to crisis communication management, we're the largest city in the province. I think there could be some federal help coming as well.
One person did mention perhaps we can declare a few public holidays coming up in honor of STS's amazing IT infrastructure, but that's a separate discussion. Alex, I think you were itching to say something. We've been presenting a picture of doom and gloom, but I'll turn over to you.
Well, I think we're all getting pretty exhausted here. We're running out of human resources, particularly any unionized ones that will time out and have a right not to come back for at least 12 hours. So we do want to start making some decisions on what does the actual transit service look like tomorrow? What is the minimum viable transit service that we can offer to our community? And that's going to be very much dependent on what humans we can get back in, particularly if we have a timeout where our union team can't come back to work for a certain amount of time. Doesn't matter how much hero syndrome they may have, they're not going to break rules and they're not going to come back in. So the people that need to go to work at 6 a.m. are going to be struggling because we're going to be very, very resource constrained. On the technical side, again, we've got a data platform that we are rebuilding into a greenfield. We've got some asynchronous data, to say the least. So we have to look at like what services are critical for bringing up online, which ones can be left down the road. So again, is ticketing important? I think revenue is good, but we have to do some good faith to the public, and maybe that's not the one to turn on, particularly since we forgot everyone's balance on their passes at this current junction. So we probably want to just say everything is free right now, but scheduling, timing is important. This system, also does a lot of internal functions like scheduling, asset management, things like that. So we need to know what buses and trains are actually available to run. And we're currently blind unless we bring up those systems and validate that the data is updated. So those are some decisions we need to make. And then, of course, that overarching is we've got a very upset public. We need to really show that we are trying to solve this. There are things that are going to be out of our hand, and they're going to blame us and shame us on social media. We have to look past that and try to deal with the constraints we have and what our mission is, which is to move people safely.
Well, in the midst of all of this, I can tell you that our board members, especially Vivek and a couple of others who just left, and I believe are drunk at this moment, have sent me a message saying, hey, we can buy robots, or Trump is willing to send in an army to help, but we have to join the U.S., to which somebody responded, STS is not for sale, ha, ha, ha. Well, I'm glad that the advisors the advisory board is seeing the light side of this, but Tahir, I see that you have something to add. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. I just want to say that my stakeholders are very unhappy. So I'm working now with skeptical union members and operators. They're fearing for their safety. An angry board that's going to making jokes over drinks. So it's become a hopeless situation. A very confused public, as we can see here from the sentiment dashboard, and a very frustrated board, of course. So the government itself is very demanding, so they're looking for assurances, they're looking for accountability, and I'm still failing to see how we are coming together as a unified voice, through one verified channel to say to the public as well, to win back trust. We can't control all the QR codes out there, but this is the channel that you can trust. We are being very transparent. This is where you get your verified information from. I still don't see us working with our union reps to make sure that we're able to cater to their voice as well, and bring them on board so they become champions rather than adversaries at this point. And internally as well, I still fail to see that there is a unified communication that's going through, and that's also coming out of the organization.
All right, Shrey, if we can have your screen come up, and Alex, yes, the offer from Vivek is for us to become the 51st transit system, so fair enough. Look, Shruti and Ali, incident commander, but Shruti, I'll start with you. Look, I understand there's a lot of technical things we need to get through, but as Shrey's screen is about to pop up as well, you will see, as you can see on your screen right now, we're dealing with a huge crisis communications issue. Shrey, can you tell us what are we looking at right now? I know that it was bunked on you to pull this up. Can you just tell us what is this?
Absolutely. So SOC was recommended to put together something which keeps a track of misinformation in public. What you're looking at is public sentiment dashboard, and this is where the real world impact becomes impossible to ignore. The system already flagged critical mass panic event, considering the number of tweets, number of hashtags being, coming up over and over again and again, volume surging nearly by 900% above baseline. The word cloud clearly shows that what riders are actually saying in real time, terms like stranded, system down, fake alerts, no services. These are not edge cases. These are widespread frustration and panic indicators. Obviously, it was very clear, but now throughout the platform, throughout social medias, we have accumulated much amount of data, and here's what you're looking on screen. On the right, the sentiment score has collapsed to minus a negative 9.2, which is deep in the severe negative range, compared with a normal baseline, which is positive 2.3. Not much, but still, this is extremely bad. The dashboard essentially just confirms the misinformation being pushed through our compromised systems. Public panic, organized or disorganized, but still orchestrated chaos in a way.
Shruti, your thoughts?
So basically, what Shrey is saying that our approval rate has gone down to negative, and I highly doubt if Trump even can help us at this point. What my team is actively, I just want to say, as part of recovery, what my team has been actively doing on the background is we have been drafting and we have been sharing unified message that's coming out. We made sure CEO doesn't speak anymore, and there's just one unified message. We are working to counter any misinformation. We are making sure that all those QR codes or any sorts of misinformation is out. It's being retracted. We are putting out messages to restore trust, and we are targeting mainly, of course, starting with our own internal employees. We are also targeting our general public. Our union rep, as suggested, have been included to make sure their voices are heard too. They know what works with our employees and what not. So our employees have been our target too. And essentially, we are trying to make sure that the reputational damage, which is in negative, can slowly go back to positive. So my team is actively working on that. I think recovery is, the reputational recovery is as much as important as the systems and the backups of recovery. So that's what the comms team have been actively working on.
Please go ahead. Let me just see if we can get the mic to you. Give me one moment. There's a mic coming your way. Brian, can you ensure it's turned on? I can see that it is. Good job, Brian, for following the turning on the mic playbook. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks.
Hello.
Abbas Moise here. My question is, we've been talking about the most viable service that can be provided to people. We've been aware of the sentiment from the early stages, from detection and analysis. So, on both communication and service, parts of this incident response, we've had that information early on that we need to act on it, and we discussed in that containment and detection and analysis phase that, this is what we need to do. We need messaging. We need that most viable service. And it's still not in place, right? Why is that? Why are we not simultaneously why is the board and the players on this, in this war room not taking action? So yeah, that's my question.
Who would like to take action?
I just want to say, I think we have from the beginning established that there is no playbook. So we definitely have to, I guess, in the next module, have to work on modifying that playbook and making sure it's absolutely followed down to the T. We have different teams trying their best to keep things working and keep things alive while eradicating and also working on communication. Initially, as I pointed out, the communication did hit a snag, but the team is working to make sure that the sentiments are revived. And on the other side, Alex and team have been continuously working on making sure that the systems are up and running with resource shortages and, of course, financial issues.
Fair enough. I'll take one.
Ali,
Yeah,
I have
go
a
ahead.
friend in the crisis communications management business. Should I give them a call?
Go ahead if John's willing to pay for it. Yeah. I'll take one more question. And what I'm going to ask is if we can, because we're coming towards the end, and then we'll take it in the lessons learned, and we're going to start the lessons learned in quick time. So if we can take those questions, then I'll take one more. I noticed there was a hand up over here at the bottom, and then to the others, we'll take your questions and lessons learned right away, I promise you. Brian, the hand over here, right at the bottom, with the check shirt. Good job. Thank you very much. Your question, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a two-part question. My first part is, I noticed about the fake QR codes. Just as you had a video camera image of the hooded man in the previous modules, did you detect any video image of people putting those QR codes up? And the second question is, do you plan on giving any monetary compensation or free transit passes to the affected consumers, passengers?
Great question. I will find out if we can look at some CCTV footage to see who's been putting that up. The crowds have been pretty large in terms of free transit. Look, John.
I think, as Alex mentioned earlier, that we may have to look at something short-term, especially because of the fact that we don't know our riders' balances on their cards right now. So we may have to look at for a short period of time, having free transit until we can sort through that. Longer term, we won't be able to do that. This is really going to be to get us over the hump until we can actually get the data in our systems back up to where it needs to be.
Okay, so with that, and given that we have a minute, and then we'll go into the lessons learned, we'll do a quick turnaround to get lessons learned going within the next 10 to 12 minutes. So we'll take all your questions then, so that we can end smack dab at about 4:30. Alex, City's asking a couple of questions. I need direct questions. I need direct answers to this. They want to put out a more refined statement, so I'm going to read this out verbatim. I don't need a thesis statement. I really need direct questions over here, direct answers over here. Question number one. So the systems that were compromised were our PA systems and our unified communication systems. Is that right or wrong?
There was also potentially the email system. The mobile app did have some indicators of compromise, but again, is that app the actual area of compromise, or is it just pulling from a compromised source? We're going to have to do more forensics in the compromised environment to determine that. But those were our initial containment steps. But we really did realize that we needed to do containment against the compromised key, which was the key to the castle. So by containing that key, I think we provided a very broad containment across that environment. But because there's so many unknowns and a lack of observability, that's why we've recommended and been spinning up a greenfield environment.
So I would just say we can only actually mention what we know. So if it's a potential, the answer is no. We know that the two systems have been compromised. We're still working on further investigations.
Fair enough. Containment to what you know, you feel has been done to the best of your practices. Have we eradicated from the known compromised environments, have we eradicated whatever this actor has done?
Maybe.
Fair enough.
You know, at the end of the day, we don't know what the impact to our previous environment was, but we're going to keep it static because this is attacking some of Canada's critical infrastructure. Transit is an important piece of a vibrant city. So we likely need a lot of forensics on that environment to support law enforcement actions. But we need to get our business back up, and that's why doing a greenfield environment. And again, you know, one of the benefits of modernizing the environment was it wasn't weeks of work to reinstall things, test things. It was built in an infrastructure as code capability. The architecture allowed us to essentially build up a parallel environment with little pain. The only gotcha was some of the data that is in that compromised environment is in there and not outside of it. So like I said, the balances of passes is not going to be there and whatnot, but many of the services may be able to spin up quite quickly, and we just have to look at all the services that system offers and which ones will be in a degraded state versus which ones will be operational. Like I said, there are internal apps that we haven't really considered, but work order apps, human resource scheduling apps and things like that we have to look at almost on a case-to-case basis. Which ones do we have the data for, or do we have to wait for the compromised environment to be cleared to pull that data out?
And I think it's fair to say that you need time, and as I said at the beginning, some patience, but patience is running thin because this is a citywide largest, or the second or third largest transit system in North America, and there's pressure on you to keep things operational. Why that pressure has been directed directly at you remains a bit of a a mystery to me, and operations has been coming in and out. Our third-party risk managers have warned us about other things as well. If it was in your world, you would probably bring everything to a stop right now so that you could get the time, but you're getting a lot of pressure to keep systems running. At this point of time, there's chaos all around. I want to thank everyone for participating, and I hope folks have realized the pressures that we're facing. Because yes, if we had it our way, we would monitor this, take it down, not run services until we're confident. But given the widespread impact of taking down a transit system, it's creating way too many complications. Our mayor and our councillors clearly have lost hope in us. There's an election year coming up as well. They've recommended maybe take some trainings on immersive labs, maybe look at some other third parties that could do the job better. And the closing statement of one of the councillors who just hung up was, seems like these attackers have bought a one-way ticket into our system. And with that, and on that painful note, I'll thank you all. Give us 10 minutes to quickly flip the stage, and we'll go into our final lessons learned, which will all be about your questions and some key takeaways. And I'm being told some other information coming in about something else that's transpiring. So thank you for your patience. See you in exactly 10 minutes. Thank you. Incident
sorry.
Commander, back?
Yes. I'm just amazed how our advisory board is out there celebrating, drinking, and in such a crisis situation. So we may need to think about him and come up with this.
I'll add to it. It was the Christmas party at the CEO's office. So the CEO's house, rather. So yeah, see you all in 10 minutes. Thank you.